Hey, welcome to Stoked Podcast, where we're having 20-minute conversations with 20 people that have impacted Stoked over the last 20 years. We have none other than Tony Hawk today. How you doing, Tony?
Excellent. Thanks. Glad to be here.
Very cool. We met, I think our first time meeting 2008 when you came to our Stoked Awards in the Red Bull space. And that
Yes.
was our second awards that we've ever had. And we were always we never really wanted to be one of those organizations that like honored people that had nothing to do with you know what I'm talking about, right? Where there's like organizations that on
I know what you're
people
talking about.
like strictly because they
I've
have
been
a
to
lot
those
of money.
events.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I wanted to like really connect with somebody that was pushing our culture forward. And I remember Slumber was like, we should honor Tony because the skate park project. And at that point, you like the motto is different, but like you had funded a kind of a lot of parks at that time, right? There's like you gave these grants to these people. And so it was a real honor and privilege to have you there and come out for the event. So in a day and age when everybody like changes jobs every couple of years, especially young people, like what really keeps you connected to skateboarding?
Well, just the core of it is the activity itself because it provided me with a sense of confidence and a sense of identity that I couldn't find anywhere else that I really enjoyed. But I think more than that, the community, because it was just people from all over. And to see skateboarding, especially now, transcend so many cultural divides, regional divides, and almost any other barrier has been amazing to witness and to be part of and to bear witness to. So I just feel like skateboarding is the coolest. I mean, it's there is no other activity, sport, lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, like that. Because if you go to a skate park, you see people from all walks of life, from all different genders, races, ages, and even skill levels, and you see them all enjoying these spaces together. I mean, the top pro could be at the skate park with an absolute beginner, and everyone is supporting each other. I don't know. I don't see anything else that's like that, and it's such a baseline level of entry. All you need is a skateboard, and you're
Yeah,
in.
I know. And you know what's so interesting? After Stoked to 20 years, we do snowboarding and surfing. I always come back to skateboarding because the barrier of entry is so low. It is like literally the lowest. Like you don't have to know how to swim. You don't have to drive 2 hours to a mountain. And I've gotten to be part of the skate park project for 9 years. I've been on the board, which is wild. And the organization has grown. What do you think the number one thing skateboarding has given you? Like, think about it.
I mean, I can't even count what it's given me. I mean, like I said, just firstly, the sense of identity and the idea that I was able to pursue something totally offbeat,
Mhm.
and make a career out of it has been beyond my wildest dreams. But it's more that the sort of attitude of skating is what drew me in. Is that you can do something that is not considered mainstream, that is not tried and true, that is looked down upon for the most part. I mean, when I was a kid, like skateboarding was the furthest thing from cool you could do. And I just didn't care because I loved it too much. So what it provided me was a sense of self and a way to approach life and problem solve that was different than anything else. I mean, I approach honestly everything I do in my life, I approach it in the same way that I approach skating, and that is to not give up and to learn from your mistakes and to celebrate the small wins along the way. I feel like people are always striving for the big win, the big goal, and it's like it's all more about the journey there and the lessons you learned.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's amazing too to see like we were, which is interesting if you just look back as to like there were like pro skateboarders, there was like local skate scenes, there were skate shops which helped foster that. And then, as growing up a skateboarder myself, like skateboarding, I stopped skateboarding because my friends stopped skateboarding. Like it was hard to keep that up. And when I first started Stoked, I realized that like this is a social thing. And the fact that you were doing social media worthy content before social media was around. It was
Yeah.
it is like it's a really interesting thing. The thing that actually gets me so hyped right now is like when you see these little scenes in like Ethiopia or like Bangladesh,
Yep.
and they're like kids just like ripping
Uganda.
sandals off. Uganda. Oh my God. Doesn't that give you chills? Think about that.
I mean, when I first saw that skate park, I don't know how long ago it was now. It feels like it was almost 10 years ago. I was already amazed that someone took the incentive to go there and build that without any sort of interest levels, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And now when you see the skaters there, they're doing absolutely modern tricks, but combining it with kind of old school moves in the confines of a pretty mediocre skate park. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
if truth be told, that skate park looks pretty rough and terrible, but they've made the best of it. And then I assume they're going to be able to skate anything going forward.
Yeah. 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 So you don't know this, but one of the things that you started when we honored you, do you remember your speech? I actually have, I'll share it with you, but somehow somebody recorded at that time your speech that you gave to us. And you told this speech about how skateboarding was the equivalent of playing with a yo-yo back in the day.
Oh, when I was a kid. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, and you were even back then, and back in 2000, you were still amazed that this is what you get to do.
Yes.
And at the end of this speech, you're like, I love Stoked. I'm gonna throw down $5,000. It was a surprise because we didn't anticipate it, but that right there, we happen to capture it on video. Everybody was stunned, and it created this movement that, like, every time we have an event, we always try to recreate that Tony Hawk moment. So that
You mean with the speaker?
yeah, with the speaker. Like, I always tell them, like, listen, if you whatever you feel, just throw out a number. And then what that does is it spurs on other people. Because if the speaker is donating at that moment and they're the ones being honored, like, it sets everybody. And after a while, so anyway, what made you say yes?
That's funny. I didn't realize I would have created such a peer pressure zeitgeist.
Yeah, no, it totally was. So you personally donated back then. What was the thing that made you say yes to the movement? Because there are other moments too where Salema had asked you, "Hey, could you text this one person for the marathon?" We won't say that person's name, but do you remember that? There
Yeah.
are certain moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, we won't mention that name. But, like, what made you say yes?
Hey, I saw you guys. Well, firstly, embracing skating in terms of your mission, mentorship, something that is hugely important, especially with people who don't have the best parental figures or guidance, or need something else. And the idea that you were facilitating skating through that process is something that no one had been doing. And I'm a supporter of anything that is skate related, skate based, that I feel like is a positive influence on kids. So, I mean, for me, it was just it was something that really resonated with me, and I wanted to obviously help. Honestly, don't remember the exact moment or anything, but I'm thankful that it created something. And I mean, I would do it again in a heartbeat. I just love what you guys are doing, and you're reaching a different community. I mean, as far reaching as our foundation is, and we've been able to really develop skate parks in places that seem completely unlikely. You're reaching a different audience as well, and kids that need some guidance.
And what about, so, like, which is the other thing too, is the thing that I've realized is that, like, so many more skate orgs have popped up. Now there's like, they have their own little, between us and Skatistan and like all these other orgs around. What role do we play in expanding access and, like, and just the development of young people too? Like, what do you think the importance of us being around is about?
Well, I feel like between us, we've created two models of charity, of help, that is skate centric. I mean, I understand you're doing other board sports as well, but I just mean in terms of the idea that you can do something with our sports and make it available to youth, make it something that is impactful on them, especially in their formative years. And so people are looking at us and then, okay, what have they done? Skatistan, I would say, is unique in terms of how they've done it and included an educational element. So I would say, maybe we're the trifecta of skate charities. But they're the more the merrier. And whatever angle you're pursuing is probably going to be something that is fills in another void. I mean, even all the way to Grind for Life, who are helping cancer victims that are going through treatments, but ones that have either come from this culture or that need help, that have the connection.
The thing that I realized, so I stepped away from Stoked for 3 years. I came back, and I spent the greater part of this year just kind of refocusing on like who we are, what our mission is. And I really, I said this at the beginning, I really came back because I truly believe in this day and age, I believe that we need more skateboarders because of the ability, like there's no other activity that I can see where resilience, creativity, and almost like this baked in mentorship, skateboarders have been mentoring younger kids the whole entire time. That's how the evolution of the culture grows. Like, aside from that, like, what do you think makes skateboarding such a powerful mentoring tool?
Well, you can see the resilience and the success. And when I say success, I don't mean in terms of finances or whatever. I just mean like in terms of how you approach life, how you can sort of figure things out in terms of career, family, parenting approach, and be just more of a solid human being through your experience with skateboarding. And I think that as one generation gets older, the next generation is looking up to them, and they're seeing how this has impacted their entire life positively. And I feel like that is the definition of mentorship, where it's like, oh, I want to be like that person, or I want to learn their lessons. And that's vastly important. I mean, I had mentors growing up. There were few and far between. Skateboarding was pretty loose, and some of the heroes at the time were not ones that you wanted to emulate. But I did find people that inspired me greatly, like Stacy Peralta. And he showed me a way to do what I love, but also to use it in a good way. And I credit him for even wanting to do something in this space, to having a foundation, to creating skate parks. I mean, I knew that I at some point I had a voice that could affect change. And I had to figure out what is the best way I can use this voice. And skate parks were my salvation as a kid. The skate park. When I say multiple skate parks, there were barely any in existence. I just happened to live near one of the ones that was open, and that was my salvation. That was where I found my tribe. That's where I fit in. I didn't fit in at school. Skating wasn't cool. It was like a yo-yo or a frisbee. It was like, you still skateboard? I was 16. Like, I hadn't grown out of it. But I found a crew that I had the same kind of thinking aligned with, and that was at the skate park. So when I had a way to give back to the skate community, in a sense, I thought the best way for me to give back is to provide skate parks.
And I love that Stacy was your mentor back then. So you don't know this, and I don't tell this story enough, but how I came up with the word Stoked for the organization was, at first, I didn't really have a name. I just kind of called it a program, but I didn't have an organizational name. And I remember watching the documentary Stoked, The Rise and Fall of Mark Gator Rogowski, which you were in, right? And they actually, you know the story, but at the end of the whole entire thing, I'm watching this train wreck of this story happen. And somebody was like, he needed somebody that was in his corner to help guide him in his career. And literally at the same time, the person was saying it, I was like, man, this guy needed a mentor. And it made me think about like all of the promising young talent and support systems that young people need in their life. And it made me think, I was like, oh, I'm gonna call it. And I really wanted to focus on mentorship, like really that relationship between adults and young people. And so anyway, so the next question is, you know, with skateboarding being, pretty much global, and it feels like it always ebbs and flows, right? Like it feels like it's always ebbing and flowing.
Yep.
And we know that in order for skateboarding to, like, we need more skateboarders, and we need more skateboarders. We need more parks. We need more shops. We need, like, in order for this to grow, like, and I know you deal with this being the chair of the board of your foundation. As we get more and more people, I know for a fact, because I am very much the same way. How do you keep that creative, rebellious, inclusive spirit before it gets taken over by outside people? Like, how does skateboarding keep its soul?
Yeah, firstly, I want to say thank you for flipping the
Yeah.
term stoked into something positive, because that's a completely different side of the coin that you're creating than what that was
Yeah.
presented, obviously, in the documentary. But and I think that in terms of skate culture will always be rebellious, and so when people say like, oh, it's so mainstream now, and how does it keep that rebellious spirit? And it's like, do you see what's happening on the other side of X Games and Olympics? It's still people hopping fences and skating the forbidden places and getting ticketed and getting harassed by cops because they're in, they're trespassing and skating public property. That element will always exist. Nothing is going to sanitize that. Nothing is going to dilute that. So it all depends on where you look. And I think that, yes, people have embraced the rebellious spirit of skateboarding, maybe more in terms of marketing, but that's always going to happen. I mean, even if you look back, like in the early days of X Games or whatever, people thought these guys are crazy, and they were all focused on the hairdos and the graphics and the skulls, and like it was demonic, and all that has come to pass, obviously. And now it's more like, well, it's big time, it's Nike, it's Supreme, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
good, like it's, I don't want the monopolization of skateboarding. Obviously, I still want it to be core brands and skate shops, if that's sustainable. But the idea that there are big companies that came up through skateboarding because of their support of skateboarding,
Yeah.
I love it.
Can we talk about young people, because you have children? How old is your youngest? It's your daughter, right? How old is your
17. Yeah, we have 5 boys,
Yeah.
4 in their 20s, and then
And
Riley's 33.
so one of the things that I think a lot about is the future of young people, especially these days, like tech, algorithms, that sort of stuff. Like, if you were to wave a magic wand, what would you love to see for the next generation? Because again, you've been that young person. You've been part of different youth cultures. You've seen, and you're seeing that, like, you're the sort of founding father of youth culture. Like, what are you thinking about? Like, what would you like to see retained in the next generation of young creators, skaters, young people, even as they go through programs like Stoked and Skate Park Project?
Well, firstly,
Mm-hmm.
resources and opportunity. I think that was something that was severely lacking in my day. Obviously, we didn't have any support, and no one was looking to help, especially in terms of mentorship, mental health, facilities, spaces. It just didn't exist. You had to fight for it, and you had to do it renegade too. Like I was one of those kids that was stealing wood from construction sites to build a ramp in their backyard because there was no place to skate. I mean, it had one skate park, but that one closed. And so I think it's happening. I think through programs like Stoke, through the abundance of skate parks, through other organizations that are holding, I mean, just the idea that you hold an event, a community event, whether it be a competition or just a Halloween bash or something like that,
Yeah.
that's hugely impactful. And it may seem like a lot of work. It may seem like there isn't much reward, but that resonates and that helps a lot.
You know what I love? I went to my local skate park in Chicago is Wilson Skate Park. Have you ever been there? Wilson? Yeah. So I took my kids on a Friday night to skateboard during the summer, and there was a young brand, like a local brand, and I got to meet the father because he was like moving speakers because they brought a DJ and they had all these friends. They probably had like 100 people there, and they called it a content day. And it was a day that all of the friends would go and create content, and they would film other skaters creating content. And one of the things that I thought of was like, oh my God, that's what we need to do. We need to like literally like give support and money to like the next generation, to these 21-year-olds, so that they could build their own little brands and like activate at skate parks. That to me is like the art of like community and creativity. I was just like, because I mean, you wouldn't have had that if you wouldn't have had your career if you didn't have people that just said, like, hey, look, let's just invest in this scene. And
Well, that's the definition of grassroots.
Totally.
That's what it takes. And start locally and just get it going. I mean, there were plenty of little like zines back in the day, some brands that were trying to make accessories, and it was all about that hustle. And you know, maybe those particular brands weren't so successful, but it taught the people
Absolutely
that they could create something. And we as the very limited consumer base, we're stoked that there was an actual hardcore brand of something we were looking for. And covering the scene.
Cool. All right. Well, before we wrap, could you share a short message or congratulations to Stoked on 20 years of mentoring youth and building community through skateboarding?
Absolutely. Stoked, congrats on 20 years. That is no small feat, especially in the wild world of board sports. And I love what you do. I'm very proud to be a supporter through the Skate Park Project and personally. And I can't wait to see what happens in the next 20. So
thank you, man. Really, really appreciate the time.